My career has been multifaceted. I started as a lawyer. I was a barrister for 13 years. Then I was in government as Attorney General. Then I was a commissioner for competition. And competition policy, being of course directly related to business, introduced me to a different type of life. When I left the Commission in 1989, I was invited to join the boards of BP and to become chairman of a bank in Ireland, Allied Irish Banks, which I became chairman of. Remained there for about 3 years. Then I came out to go back into public service, which is my real love, not business, and became Director General of the General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade, and at the very beginning, the WTO. When I left it in 1995, I rejoined the board of BP as deputy chairman to become chairman of BP in 1997, which I remained for 13 years. And I also became chairman of Goldman Sachs International, which essentially is Europe. I've continued with both of those up to very recent times. I retired at the end of last year as chairman of BP, but have remained as chairman of Goldman Sachs International as well as taking a number of other positions and being chairman in particular of the London School of Economics. The people who inspired me in my career really were not in the business area. They were in the political sphere, particularly I would say Jacques Delors in Europe. I've always been a very firm believer in Europe, in European integration, and he had a particular inspirational effect on me. And another figure who was an economist and Prime Minister in Ireland, Garret FitzGerald, who I served under in government. I've never been really inspired by business as such. Business seems to me to be something which I've enjoyed and which I think contributes positively to the world in which we live, but it has not been the main focal point of my existence, even though I've spent a considerable number of years in it. In the end of the day, there are different types of business leader. And I was parachuted, really, after a career in public service into senior positions. I didn't climb the ladder in the ordinary way. So I've always been concerned with leadership. And leadership in business, as in other forms of life, seems to me to give rise to two different types of personality. In some instances, you have the autocratic businessman, the man who leads by, I won't say quite diktat, but less by consensus and more by his own judgment. And the other type of leader, and these are two very broadly defined categories, is one who seeks leadership through consensus and through collegiality. Obviously, there's a huge spectrum of different types of leader between those two extremes. And I suppose that I see myself at least as being more on the collegiate consensus model, although hopefully from time to time being prepared to take decisive positions on important issues where it's necessary to do so. The essentials for personal and corporate success relate to an ability to lead from the front by management, not simply to drift with the mood of the time, but to look to decision making which involves often change and the recognition that the world in which we live is changing fundamentally. The business world, to me, has acquired a reputation which, in general, has not been justified by what I have seen. Companies are typecast. Companies, in the end of the day, are led by individuals. Companies have different types of culture. That's undoubtedly true. But I think all of them have, that I have experienced, have a much more caring side, responsible side, than they're given credit for. they're presented often as machines for profit, whereas any company that actually operates solely on the basis of concern for profit is not best representing its shareholders' interests, because I think companies have to also reflect the norms and values of the society in which they live. And when they transgress, and I've seen examples of that obviously, when they make mistakes, then they pay for it. And ultimately, business therefore demands in its leadership, I believe, a broader perspective than the simple profit motive, because the long-term interests of a company and its shareholders are in responsible governance and facing issues responsibly.